reading Anatomy of a Murder. In the end, the jury gives the verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. Paul Beegler succeeds. Also, Parnell and Paul decide to keep practicing law together and form the firm McCarthy and Beegler. They are never paid for their work, but they are two of the happiest, most content man ever described in a book.
So, during this interview, I want to focus on the predictions you made when you first started reading the book.
Alright, as I promised, this interview will evaluate the predictions I made in my first blog post. Quickly, here's a basic review of the predictions I made in that first post. My first prediction was about the case itself. I said it would be a very grueling, difficult case to win. Next, I said that in order for Beegler to win, he would need to prove that Laura Mannion was raped. Then I said that he would need to really find witnesses who would substantiate Lieutenant Mannion's story. I also said he would need to find a reputable psychiatrist. I thought it was imperative that he found a couple of witnesses that supported the fact that the lieutenant was insane. Next, I predicted that the trial would start off rough, with Mitch really pounding Beegler. Finally, I said that Beegler would find a good psychiatrist, would prove his man was insane, and would win his case.
Did many of your predictions hold true? Can you expand on the predictions that did?
Fortunately for me, many of those predictions did hold true. Beegler does find witnesses to corroborate the lieutenant's story. That isn't difficult. The prosecution also looks to find witnesses to corroborate what the lieutenant said. Also, Beegler is able to find a reliable psychiatrist provided for free by the United States Army. This psychiatrist decides that the lieutenant suffered from temporary insanity at the time of the murder. Beegler is also able to find a few witnesses to support the fact that the lieutenant was insane, and this is hugely important in his case. The first witness is an old deputy that watched the trailer park who the lieutenant turned himself into. This man describes the lieutenant as unstable. Then, Beegler is able to gain a collective agreement from most of the people present at the bar that the lieutenant was in an apparent daze. They spoke to him, but it was as if he had tunnel vision and could neither see nor hear them. And, of course, Beegler has the psychiatrist who scientifically demonstrates Mannion's insanity at the time of the murder.
Now, were any of the predictions a little more controversial?
Definitely. A few of my predictions are, in my opinion, correct, but others might have different opinions. The first of these predictions was the one that predicted the case would be hard to win. In my opinion, the case is extremely hard for Beegler to win. Beegler has to face the battle-scarred veteran, that is Claude Dancer. For every positive outcome Beegler has, Dancer exploits something, and there is a negative outcome. It truly is a hard-fought 3-week battle, in which Beegler gets little sleep and little satisfaction until the end. Next, I hypothesized that Beegler would need to prove that Laura Mannion was raped. I think that he does this, and this is evident at the end of the novel when the judge says, "This is the first time in my legal career that I've seen a dead man successfully prosecuted for rape." Page 430 of the novel. In this quote, Judge Weaver is discussing the fact that during the trial, Beegler was unable to prove that Barney Quill raped Laura Mannion. In my opinion, if Beegler did not prove to the jury that Laura Mannion was raped by Barney Quill, the jury would not feel in any way that the lieutenant was actually insane, and they would not acquit him. These were predictions I thought turned out to be substantially true, but my evaluation of them is only an opinion.
Now, did you find that any of your predictions did not end up as you thought they would?
Yes, only one of my predictions did not hold true. I stated that Mitch would start the ball rolling by really pounding Beegler. He would really try to get the fact across to the jury that the lieutenant waited an hour after his wife was raped to go to the bar and kill Barney Quill. I was wrong in multiple ways. First, as the second part of the story, the trial, develops, it becomes clear immediately that Mitch will have a very small role as a prosecutor in the trial. Most of the work is done by his assistant, Claude Dancer. And right from the start, Claude Dancer begins to question most of the witnesses and make most of the objections for the prosecution. He did, however, really pound Beegler pretty hard. Beegler tired quickly, and that was pretty noticeable. I was also wrong about the fact that he would say the lieutenant waited. In fact, in the trial, the prosecution tries as hard as it can to hide the fact that the rape ever occurred. They don't even want to mention it ever happened. Obviously, they know that if they admit it happened, the lieutenant's credibility would raise, and the jury might think his actions were slightly more justifiable. Luckily, this prediction was the only one I really got wrong.
Do you have any other general comments you would like to make about the book? Was there anything you thought was strange, or were there any surprises?
Well, I made many good predictions and a few bad predictions, but it was really interesting to watch the book evolve and see what tactics Biegler used throughout the case. I was also right in my final prediction. I predicted that Biegler has to win the case because Volker wouldn't write about a trial he lost. And I was right. Biegler wins the trial. There weren't really too many surprise twists in the story. I was happy to see that Biegler starts to overpower Dancer, and the judge starts to rule in favor of Biegler. It is interesting to watch how even the judge is dragged into Biegler's case and wants to understand what he's getting at. Everyone, especially the jury, seems to really believe in what Paul Biegler says. There is one shocking testimony at the end of the trial, though. It is given by Dwayne Miller, the man in the cell next to the lieutenant, convicted for arson, who has a very interesting rap sheet himself. Dwayne Miller says, "I heard the lieutenant chuckling to himself during this noon hour, and I says, 'Things looking up, Lieutenant?' And he chuckles some more and says, 'You damn tootin' buster. I've already fooled my lawyer and my side.'" That was from page 385 of the novel. This is Dancer's major surprise in the case. No one is expecting this. Biegler really manages to downplay this event, and the jury still rules in his favor in the end, luckily for him. But at the very end of the novel, Parnell and Paul go to the trailer park where the Mannions were staying during the trial, and they look to discuss the financial situation of the case, how they're going to get paid. And they find out from the caretaker of the park that the Mannions had left the park very late the night that Lieutenant Mannion was acquitted. The lieutenant really was likely lying about tricking everyone during the case.
Excellent. Sounds like an interesting story. Thank you for coming.
No problem. It was nice to be here.